Thank you very much, Honorable Ambassador, to accept talk to Radio Flash and the Flash TV.
It's a pleasure.
I would like to hear from you the Parliament of Rwanda, both chambers, Law and High Chambers, have taken the resolution to ask the EU Parliament to revoke the decision that they made last week. What is your say about that? Is it possible to revoke that?
I've read the resolution of the Rwanda Parliament, and I followed the debate with some interest, as I also followed the debate in the European Parliament last week and the outcome of that. So obviously the two parliaments have a somewhat different view of the situation. In the case of the European Parliament, you have to remember this is a parliament of elected members who formed into various political groupings around parties. They debated the European Parliament resolution, came to a consensus on that. That's the way it works. What you saw debated then in Strasbourg at the plenary session of the Parliament was the final form of the agreed resolution adopted after that debate. The institution of the European Parliament is quite independent and quite separate. The European External Action Service was present, and Commissioner Malmström spoke on behalf of the High Representative for EU Foreign Policy, Mrs. Mogherini. So we put our position on Rwanda and on the case of Victoire Ingabire in that debate. So you have to remember the dynamic of the European Union is various institutions working together. Now, in answer to your question, I rather doubt personally that the European Parliament, on the strength of what the Rwandan Parliament has said, is going to change its mind or withdraw its resolution. That would be rather unusual. But I think both parliamentary bodies will be looking at one another in terms of seeing what is the level of debate. And may I say that it is not completely unhealthy to have this sort of discussion, irritating as it may be on some of the points that have been raised. These are between two parliamentary blocks, and I'm sure we have not heard the end of it, but I doubt, but I don't know, that the European Parliament will wish to withdraw its resolution, given that it is based on the consensus of the main political groups and has been debated widely in a plenary session.
Rwanda parliamentarians have been complaining this week that when they were hosting their colleagues from EU, they were expecting them to come and learn the best practices concerning gender. And they say maybe there was a hidden agenda behind. So what do you say about this?
I really can't comment on what was in the minds of the European parliamentarians when they were here, other than they did genuinely want to come and share their thoughts and feelings on gender and women's rights issues. And I think there was a healthy discussion in the Rwanda Parliament on the first day of their visit here, those 7 or 8 and 9, 10 days ago. Another agenda, I really don't know. Clearly, there has been this resolution produced very close to that visit, and I can understand why it appears in the minds of some people that there was a sort of an alternative motive possibly, but I cannot really comment on that, and I wouldn't know. I only observed what I saw here, which was a genuine wish to exchange ideas on the situation regarding women's rights and gender. You have to remember the European Parliament is a very large institution. There are many people involved in the drafting of this resolution, not only those who might have been here during the time of the official visit of those parliamentarians.
It means the information they based on is not necessarily the information brought by those MPs who were recently in Kigali.
Most likely you are right, that many who debated, many who were involved in the drafting of this resolution would have different elements of knowledge of the situation of this country, and it would be wider than those bits of information brought back by the parliamentarians who visited here.
So we can ask ourselves, or our audience is asking, whether that resolution will have an impact on the bilateral relations. I go specific to the aid that is given by the EU, because in the resolution they are asking the European Council to review how the aid is really used, specifically to human rights points.
My first response to that is, of course, that we as the managers of the funds of the European taxpayer, agreed by the member states of the European Union, are obliged to follow all forms of good practice, and in fact also to build in to our foreign policy instruments, and that includes development assistance, the practices required on governance, human rights, and democracy. But my second response would be, I don't see any change in what we are doing here. There are some of the things we might have to talk more to government about, but we are talking regularly to government on these sorts of issues. And I think the government is very aware what we feel on certain points, but we present them with discretion and with respect to another partner. These are not elements of lecturing. These are a discussion on issues that we feel are of concern, and we get the answers from government, and that debate continues. The important thing is that we're able to speak frankly to one another in the appropriate diplomatic setting, and that is without making noise and without any headlines. It is to work together patiently for what we both, I think, wish to achieve, which is the progress and the advancement of society and prosperity in this country.
We are going to the end, but as a representative on the ground, they say there are still issues in the human rights. The laws are vague and unprecise. Do you find it in that way?
I can't really go into detail where we might, what might be the content of our discussion. We're always talking about the judicial system. We talk about political space. Our feeling as European Union is that the broadening of political space and civic participation in the lives of each and every one in this country is an important part for the strengthening of the institutions and of the societies, of their economic advancement and also of their political advancement. We talk about all these things, and we compare notes. We have had our issues inside the European Union in the past, and we like to share some of those experiences. There are the international conventions to which Rwanda has adhered on issues related to rights of child, rights of the individual, freedom of expression. There's the African Charter on Human Rights and Democracy, to which Rwanda has signed up to. So all of these are reference points for a reasonable discussion on some of these issues. But it is the frankness which is appreciated. But let me remind all your listeners and your readers, your viewers, that what we have is a healthy relationship in which we can have this discussion. There's nothing here that leads me to believe anything else.
So finally, what is your final say?
Well, it's very hard to know where to draw the line in this. We as the European Union are in Rwanda for the long haul. We have been here for 3 decades. We will be here for 3 decades plus more, and we look at it in the long term, and that is what is important, to assure our partnership with the people of Rwanda and with this great nation of Rwanda, and that is where we're going.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed.